Olga Adler from Austin Businesswoman, and today we have our Ask the Experts webinar dedicated to strategies of how to connect with your audience. In the era of informational overload, when millions of people write a new post, post a new video, a new blog post every second, how do we make sure that we are seen, listened to, and people want to buy from us, listen to us, and see what we do? We gathered an amazing group of experts from different fields who mastered the art of connecting with their audience in a meaningful way. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. First one is Liz Martinez Nelson.
Okay, hi, I'm Liz, and I'm a brand and web designer. So I do strategic branding and web design for small business women who own small businesses.
Thank you. Rosie Life 100 podcast.
Hi, I am Rosie. I am the host of Live 100 Podcast, which is a bilingual show with episodes in English, some other in Spanish, but always with incredible guests who are making the world a better place.
Thank you. Next is Tanny Smith from Design Lolly.
Yes, I am. That covered it. I'm Tanny Smith from Design Lolly. No, we're a two-woman show for branding small to medium-sized businesses, and yeah, we love helping businesses look their best.
Thank you. Cassandra Tavares, Stacked House Mama.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Tavares. I'm actually a content writer. My website is thestackedhouse.com. I'm a content writer. I talk about self-care for busy moms, and I also have an Etsy shop.
Thank you. Carla Hand, Collective Love Studio.
Hi, I'm Carla, and I'm Collective Love Photography, and I do maternity and beauty and boudoir photography for just women. I help women feel more beautiful and more confident in their own bodies, and I love supporting them through all phases of their lives. So, yeah.
Thank you. Next is Timitra Macavia.
Hi, I'm Demetria. I am a life coach for women. I work one-on-one with women who are ready to break out of their shells, start taking up space in the world, and create the life they desire. So I work with them to make whatever transformation they're looking to make in their life.
Thank you. And our next guest is Becky Porter. She seems to have some problems with connection, but she's from Design Lolly like Tanny. So Tanny already introduced the company, and we hope that Becky can reconnect. Okay, so let's jump into our questions. So the best way to connect with your audience, if you're a content creator, a small business, a blogger, an influencer, a podcaster, is branding. And what is branding? Many people use that word, but they don't really know what it is. So let's start with Liz. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I think the main thing, people get confused between branding and visual identity. So a lot of people think that your brand is your logo or your color palette, your fonts. That's your visual identity. So when you talk about branding, visual identity is just one part of your brand. Other elements are your messaging, your brand voice, your values. So branding, really, to sum it up, is the way that you're perceived by your audience. It's made up of a lot of different elements, and it's how you come across to them, how they interact with you, how they can expect you to show up for them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Does anyone else want to add to that? So I agree with what you said, because a lot of people do really confuse branding and visual identity. Branding is a more of a general field, and no matter what kind of content you publish, you're always involved in creating your own personal brand or company brand. And you need to connect to people on many levels: visual, auditory, and intellectual, and emotional, of course. As women-owned businesses, we know that more than anyone.
Yes.
And I actually wanted to ask Carla. She's a photographer, and she did a lot of branding photographer. So how do you manage to create a relationship with with your audience in a visual way?
I think it's very important to create that relationship at the very beginning. It helps you understand your needs better. And like, for example, for personal branding, like you can't just photograph someone just to photograph them. You have to get to know them a little bit more. You have to get to know their business and what they're offering to their clients in order to be the message they want to convey and allow you to convey that message through photography. So I think it is very important to get to know them at a personal level and professional level in order to convey the right message. Now, doing this, it builds trust with your client, and that builds repeat clients, and you get more recommendations. So, like you said, this tying all this together shapes your brand identity.
I completely agree with that. And we have other people who are in the visual industry. Do you have anything to add? Our graphic designers and web designer?
I think they nailed it pretty well. I like to simplify it for clients that your brand is the guide that helps you conduct yourself out in the world. It's the thing that will help you know how to act when you interact with your audience in various situations. And a lot of that makes more sense to people. It's like, oh, okay, because they kind of just want to be told what to do. Just tell me what to do. And that's what the brand is doing. It's telling you what to do.
Exactly. And for your job, when people come to you and they need to create a logo or visual identity, what are the most common problems when they don't know where to go, when they don't know what strategy to choose? How do you help them with that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
This actually comes up a lot because business owners often feel like they need to be knowledgeable in every single area, and so they don't quite understand why they can't get their brand right or their look right. But they don't need to be knowledgeable in that area. That's where the professional comes in, right? Like, that's my whole job, is to look at and identify that for them. They can focus solely on whatever product or service that they're creating, and that's kind of, I see ourselves as like problem solvers to help them identify that by talking to them, getting to know them, getting to know the personality of their company, and then we align that visual identity and brand and create a strategy to help communicate that with everyone.
I agree. So unless you are very talented and gifted and you can nail your brand without being a professional in it, it's always a good idea to ask for advice. And DIY is good, but when you want to make a good first impression, you should probably invest your efforts in making it work for you. Exactly. And talking about professional branding, a lot of people, when they're trying to promote their products, their offer, they sound too salesy and too pushy, because you see a lot of people who just repeat the same thing over and over, and they don't really provide any value unless you pay for it, and you just see this post, buy here, subscribe here, and it's a turnoff for a lot of us. And I wanted to ask Cassandra, who's professional content writer, how do you avoid that? We know that we all need to make our living and sell, but how do we avoid sounding desperate?
Well, going off of that, it basically, when you actually sell to people, it's actually a process of how it gets from point A to, all the way to Z, and there's an actual process. So the main thing is you have to understand your audience before you can pitch to them, before you can actually say, hey, would you like to buy my product? They want to see results. They want to see that things are working. The main aspect is you have to, like Carly said, you have to establish that emotional connection and say, hey, I understand your problems. When you're basically selling something, you're basically giving them an answer to their problems. And not only that, but they want to know that your product works. So in order to not sell so pushy, you want to act as a guide, like if you understand their problems. And when you sell, it's not about you. Yeah, you want to sell everything, and yeah, you want to make some really good money, but it sounds pushy when you make it about you, and it's not about you. It's actually about the customer when you're selling to someone. You have to actually engage with them, and it's a process and it's a journey with them. And you have to understand an emotional, deep connection of what they want, what they like. What did they not like about your product? What, you have to also be open to be criticized and have some feedbacks. In order to not sound too pushy, you definitely have to understand your customers, and why they're buying what you have. What makes you more different? You have to understand the buying process of how a customer thinks, what they do before, during, after. You want to know the analytics of it all. So you definitely have to get some feedback from them. And when you talk to them, become their friend before you try to sell them something, because everybody's going to try to sell me something, but I'm much more likely to buy from somebody if I know them established and I want a brand that's going to care about me when I make an attempt to buy. Don't just say, hey, would you like to buy my product? It doesn't work like that. It's all about an emotional connection and make me want to buy from you. So it's basically about emotional connection and what do you have to offer them? Because it's about them. They're spending the money. So that's basically what I'd say. Yeah.
I completely agree. This is very, very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It takes a lot of emotional intelligence to create this
Mm-hmm.
meaningful connection and make sure that you're helping people to solve some problem in their lives rather than just adding another useless
Mm-hmm.
service or product to their cart. And I wanted to ask Dimitria, who is a life coach, and she deals a lot with emotional intelligence in
Mm-hmm.
people, business people. And I just wanted to ask her to contribute to this thought.
Yes, so I agree with everything that Cassandra said. People are not buying what you're selling, they're buying how it makes them feel. So you need to know them and understand what they're looking for, how they're looking to feel when you're trying to sell them something. And to, like Cassandra said, keep in mind what's in it for them, not what's in it for you.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's all about the person, but
Mm-hmm.
not you. You're the wrong person to make it all about it. Um, you need
Mm-hmm.
to make it about the other person.
Yeah.
So, Rosie, our podcast star, could you tell us what, in your opinion, is the best way to connect? Because you connect to people, you make them listen to you, and you're being heard. So, how do you make that happen? You don't even use imagery or, I don't know, smells and anything like that. You just attract people with your voice. How do you make it happen?
That is absolutely right. Podcasting is an audio file. So the only thing I have is the way that they listen to me. And I put myself in their position. If I'm just listening to something while I'm doing usually something else, that is my audience. They're usually either exercising, jogging, getting ready for the day. They are multitasking. So how can I deliver something that it will be meaningful to them and they can relate, that they can feel that it's possible for them and it keep their interest? Another thing is because it's only audio, they don't know what I look like. They don't know what it feels like when it's the first time. So my audience is usually a person who likes to travel, who is comfortable to listening to people with different accents. Some of my guests are from all over the place, all over the world. So they are comfortable. They understand that they're in a global environment, and that's the level of comfort. So I start from there. And also, I always pay attention that even though there might be thousands of people listening to me, I am talking to one, to that person. And I want that person to feel that they are in some kind of virtual living room with me and the guest, and they are part of the conversation. I can see my listeners smiling and saying, oh, yes, I remember that. And when they give me their reviews and I read them and I say, yes, I accomplished that. Or I need to modify my delivery so they can do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. And I love your podcast. And it's exactly like you said, it sounds like you're talking to me when you're doing the podcast. And I think it takes a lot of psychology to actually be able to be so attuned to your audience. And speaking about podcasts and audio files, I wanted to ask Tanny about brand voice in general. You do a lot of branding, and everyone on the internet is asking how to find my unique brand voice. So how do you do that?
I think there's two different ways. Most businesses we work with is either a sole proprietorship or a very small group. And the more you can align your brand in that situation with your actual personality, the better, the more authentic you come across. You don't have to do every part. Like if you're a commercially person, maybe lower that part down. But, think about the best parts of you and see if you can align your brand in that way, because then your interactions will seem more natural and authentic. When it's a larger company with multiple personalities, that's not as possible. And so instead, what you try to do is every business and every company has a personality. So you try to identify what that personality is and then establish it in a way that can be streamlined throughout the company. And that's through a brand style guide or just a general plan that can be distributed out to everybody. And so they're all on board that, hey, this is the personality of our company. I like to use Target as an example. The Target personality is that fun, cute mom with little kids down the road that she's never going to gossip about you. She's never going to talk behind your back. She's going to make life easier. You're going to go to the store. There's not going to be background music. It's going to be calm and peaceful. She's going to bring you cookies. She's your pal, right? And so that's a brand personality, and you got to stick with it the whole time. And so that's how you can create this voice for your company, but still remain authentic, because people pick up real fast, like we said previously on the sales pitch, that you want something from them. But if you can shift more into that friendship trust zone, that's a lot better and more successful for you.
Mm-hmm. So you become recognizable. People instantly, from the images, from the voice, from the tone of your messaging, they know exactly who you are, and they can relate and connect. And I actually wanted to ask your colleague, Becky, about the more general way of branding strategy when you build your visual identity and your voice. So how do you unite it all in a consistent strategy so you're not all over the place?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? I had
Yes.
technical issues earlier.
You're very far away, but we can still hear you.
I know. I'm in California right now. The sun is just coming up. So,
Wow.
yeah, brand strategy. So like Tanny was saying, well, I think this is such a great conversation because there's so many different moving parts to a brand. It's not just your visuals, right? It's the way that you interact with people. It's your message and your voice, like just the whole personality of your company. And if there are more people in your company than just you, that takes a really deliberate strategy to keep that streamlined so that you're all representing the same visual, the same personality, the same message, all of that. And of course, with all those moving parts, you can't build a brand overnight. I mean, you could probably do the visuals in a couple of weeks, but a brand takes a long time to build. And so your brand strategy is your long game, your long-term plan for how you're going to make sure that you keep that consistent voice and consistent message and consistent look across time, across platforms, across these employees, different personality employees that you're going to bring together that are going to represent this this one cohesive personality, your brand.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Stay cohesive. When you choose your brand strategy or your brand voice, you should stick to it at least for a while. It will grow with you, it will develop, but a lot of times I see people who just discovered Canva, for example, and today they're all orange and powerful and energetic, and next day they're all soft and they have cherry blossom on their image, and they're using the we instead of I, although they were dancing in their reel just in front of the mirror the previous time. So try to not confuse the audience. We know that you have a lot to say, but try not to say it all at the same time. And today, Dimitria actually said a very important thing, that people don't buy what you want to sell, they buy how it makes them feel. So it's very important to create an experience when you work with your customers. And I wanted to ask Carla, who works in a very intimate environment because it's delicate, you're kind of helping people open up and show what they want to show and what they want to say. So how do you create that experience with your customers?
Yeah, and I think that's so important, especially because I photograph women, and I do photograph them in a very intimate way. And for me, it's very important for them to open up to me. So I try to create that experience from the very beginning. And then I create that experience by experience of other women that have stepped into my studio and have lived that before. So that way, when you share that experience online, other women are like, oh, I want to experience that. I want to have that. And then they reach out to you, and you continue that experience by providing all the necessary information to them. You just continue building on. And it is important to build that trust and communicate sincerely, genuinely, so they can trust you and they can open up to you and they can buy your services. I feel like it doesn't end when you provide the services. The experience continues even after you provide or they buy your product. I think it's important to ask for feedback because it helps your business grow. It helps you improve, and it helps you give that a better experience to your future clients.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and I've seen Carla's work, and she actually hosted our networking event where she provided experience to a lot of people who came to the event. And it's fascinating how Carla manages to keep someone's brand message consistent when they come one day to do their LinkedIn shot and next day they come for a boudoir session. And you look at the pictures and you're like, it's still the same person. Yes, they're saying different things, but we know it's them. It's the authentic them. And Carla mastered the art of creating the experience for the client, and it's very valuable because a lot of businesses do the same thing you do, but you always have to do it in your unique way so people know that you stand out. And I wanted to ask Cassandra, who does the same work of creating an experience for their audience, but using different tools, because you create content that's more informational and intellectual, and you still need to build this emotional connection with them. So it's not just listing facts about something, but it's more of a making them feel. So how do you do that?
So my main goal, because I have a website, thestackhouse.com, my main goal is when they read my articles, when they see my site, it is a journey. I do want to provide a journey, but I also want them to come back. Carla had some really great points. It is a journey. You do want to get feedback, but you also want to make them feel very important so that they want to come back. Because it's not just about, when you go to a hairdresser, you get your hair done, great, but you want to keep going to the same hairdresser because they know you. So back to what Tanny was saying, that you have to be authentic. I'm more likely to buy something from a mama who looks like a mess more than like a mama who works out and looks great, because they're authentic. People want to see the real you and they want to connect. So I have to make them connect with me. I have to be real about what it is to be a mother and do self-care. And I want my, the people who are on my website, I want them to feel like they get me and I get them when they're reading my articles. I tend to hold nothing back so that people come back to me. I tend to make it about them and write about them and do that emotional connection so that it's a journey, but then they also do come back to me. There's just so many people. You have to stand out as well. You can't just, fall into the crowd. Standing out, being authentic, and genuinely care about them. Don't, be like, oh, this is how sales works. Let me talk to you for a little bit. No, it's about genuinely caring about the person and how can you make their life better. And if they keep coming back to you, it's because you did. So that's definitely, I want them to feel something when they come to my website, and I want them to come back. So.
And I know they do, because what you do on your website and on your Pinterest, it's just hypnotizing. It really creates as a mother myself, I'm like, yes, I feel seen. I feel that she knows what she's talking about. She's not some, like in many brands, there are people who are 19 years old, they're great with social media. They don't have a child, but they write about all the hardship of motherhood. And you're like, you don't know what you're talking about.
It's different. It's definitely different.
It is. And speaking about standing out, I wanted to ask Liz, our website designer, who actually helps brands stand out from the moment someone opens their landing page or their website. And it's a very hard task because it's a technical tool, but you still need to make it relatable. So how do you make your clients stand out in their niche?
Yeah, so right, it is a technical skill. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. So when I'm working with a client for a website, we do a strategy session. So we need to talk about their most important goal for their website. It's one thing to just have a space online, but I would like my clients to all know exactly why they're existing online and what they want their visitors to ultimately do. So usually I work with a lot of coaches and consultants. So usually women want people to sign up for their offer or book a call. So apply to work with me or book a call. So I make sure that we're bringing our visitors on a journey to that destination the whole time and focusing on that goal. And a lot of that is communicating. I think actually a lot of people in this group have touched on this, communicating not just selling the transformation as opposed to selling your product or your offer, talking about what it can do for the visitor who's on the website. So we're really strategic about how we lay out the information, and going back to branding, we make sure that we incorporate that brand voice that the ladies at Design Lolly were talking about, making sure we're tactical about the messaging, what information we're putting out and when, as you scroll through the website, so that your visitor feels seen and heard. And another thing that I've heard, I think Cassandra said, maybe a couple more people said, is speaking to that one person. And, oh, that was Rosie. And talking, making sure that you're identifying that ideal client and identifying their very specific needs and problems and pain points, so that when they're reading through your website, they're saying, yeah, that is me. That is 100% me. I need this. And this is the person who can help me with those problems. There's a saying, when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So if you're trying to appeal to everybody, your message kind of feels generic and bland. But when you get really specific and niche down, like you were saying, Olga, that's when those clients start to feel like, ooh, electrified by your content and like, this is who I want to work with. everybody else who exists within your space becomes obsolete because, you know, they're solving a lot of problems. But when you come across the person who's talking about your problems, your specific issues that you're trying to solve, they become your number one choice. And you're no longer price shopping, which is what happens a lot when you get a lot of people sharing the same generic message. Oh, I'll help you, you know, I'll help you with your get to your dream life. Well, if you can talk about what that dream life looks like exactly, that's when the sparks start to sort of fly and people get excited to work with you.
I think everyone knows exactly what you're talking about, because we all had experience of going to someone's website and spending much more time than we expected there, and buying things that we didn't even know we needed. And I don't say it in the bad way, that it was like we bought it and then we regretted it, but we're like, wow, I really need this. I didn't even know it existed. So it educated us. It showed us some life hacks, some useful information, valuable tools that we might use in the future. While
You
some
actually
other
just made
websites,
me, oh, sorry.
yeah, okay.
God, you
No,
just
no,
actually
go
made me
ahead.
think of something that you just said was when you don't actually realize you need something. There's this idea that you can talk about people's external problems, and that's sort of the obvious things that they're coming to you for. For me, it's like, oh, I need a website. That's the external problem. But there's also an internal problem, and that can be, I don't feel like I have a legit business if I don't have a website, or it's the way that that external problem makes them feel. That's the internal problem. And when you can appeal to that, that's like what you said, like maybe they didn't even realize, like, oh, actually, it's not just that I need a website, it's that I need to feel real, like I'm doing something real here. So that's kind of an example of a problem somebody might not even realize they have, but when you can speak to it, it's like, oh, I need that.
Yeah, exactly. When you can feel they need to solve some more abstract, some meta problem in their life, and you're like, well, there is actually an app for that, or there is a tool for that, or there is an easy way to do it, or there is a person to call who can do it for you, and so you don't have to spend hours and hours researching on your own. And yeah, I completely agree that that's probably the main law of marketing. You need to solve someone else's problem, and you're like, I started my business to have fun, not to solve other people's problems. But unfortunately, that's what it all comes down to. And I wanted to bring Rosie in on this topic because she interviews a lot of people in her podcast. She doesn't make it about her. She always makes it about her guests. And she does it in a way that listeners are interested in the podcast, even though it's about someone else. So it's this magic that happens when you're like, I'm interested to hear what these people have to say. So how do you do it? How do you guide the discussion so people don't just talk about themselves and make all your listeners just turn off the podcast? How do you do that?
Well, it's the magic of storytelling. Everybody has a story to tell, and it's a matter of valuing what is in that story that can apply to the listeners. So I take the time to meet my guests beforehand, and I make that connection. I talk to them. I see how they're feeling. I see how they made their dreams a reality, or if they're working on it. If it's a business that they're building, we connect that way. And that gives me a good idea on the best way to deliver that to the audience in a way that they can tell their story and that the audience can receive it. So as far as the visual point, I take advantage of Instagram. That's my visual medium. And in Instagram, the topic that I am going to cover in the episode, for instance, my motto is live life to 100%, right? So everything that I have on my Instagram, it leads to that. And when I have my guests in the episode, I take a portion of what they said in the interview and I bring it to Instagram. I make a visual with their voice, with their face, and that particular tip that they give on how they went from point A to point B, how they build the bridge between idea to reality, and how they solve the problem. So somebody else listening across the world or maybe a few miles away say, that I can relate to that, and that is a great tip. Or I know someone who can benefit from it. And that person, many of my first time listeners, they don't even know what a podcast was or how to access it. So I make it available through a website. And that's another great point, through a website, because everybody who with internet connection has access to website, but not everybody is subscribed to Apple or Spotify or any other place. So I make it as available as possible. So that's how I integrate the visual aspect to the emotional connection to making the guest the star of the show, and for them to share their story and for people to receive that story and to benefit from it.
This is beautiful, and I think you just nailing it every time. And I had the experience of being on one of your episodes and on listening
Yes.
to to other interviews. And if someone wants to to learn how to connect with their audience, even when they're talking about someone else, you should definitely check out Rosie's podcast to learn from her, because she has a lot to teach you. And someone mentioned here that Cassandra, I think, mentioned that the goal is to make people come back to you. So we as women, we always want a long-term connection. We don't want a one purchase stand. We want people to come back, to have a relationship with us. So we need to provide long-term value. We can't just sell them a t-shirt and then expect them to come back for another t-shirt, because they might not. And I wanted to ask Dimitria about how can we learn to provide this long-term value when people are coming back, even when they don't need something immediately.
Well, one thing I can say is you want to meet your customer where they are and really listen to and dial into what they need. And so when you fulfill those needs or show them how they can fulfill those needs, they will keep coming back to you. So when I work with my clients, I teach them my guiding principles and techniques on thought work and how that will affect one area of their life and teach them how to apply that to other areas of their life. So if they know that they can transform one area of their life, they can take those principles and apply to other areas of their life. So I'm really teaching them to believe them in themselves and what's possible, but I'm starting with where they are in their life and meeting them where they are with that one problem. And so when we solve one problem, they come back to look at how they can solve another problem. So it's really listening, being there for them, and meeting them where they are. I think those are main ways.
Thank you. And Dimitra is really good at creating this journey, because she provides a lot of valuable content to all of her readers and all of her listeners, because she does a lot of videos. And I think it's another big law of branding and marketing, when you provide value for free before you actually ask people to buy from you. Because if they can't appreciate what you can do, what knowledge you can share, what experience you have before they make the payment, they're not going to trust you. So building trust with providing value, even if you don't get immediate payment for it, it's still a very wise strategy to follow. And speaking about payments and strategies, so branding is a tool for making our business, and business is a tool for making money. And once we created that connection and experience, and people know that we listen to them and we are their friends, how do we actually make them pay for our services? It becomes this delicate topic where all your audience are your friends, but you still want them to pay you. So there comes this question of negotiating your services and prices and actually showing what you have for sale. And I wanted to ask Becky to tell us about how do you make that soft transition from friendship to signing on a customer.
I think what Demetria said is really important. I think with so much access to social media, we have great tools to show people the value of what we offer, so that when they come to us, there's not that sticker shock. Like, I mean, obviously, if they don't know, if they haven't seen your prices, who knows what their expectations are as far as sticker shock goes, but they're going to come already knowing how valuable what you offer is, how valuable your offering is if you're active on social media and showing what you have and how it's going to affect them. And I think as far as negotiating prices, like you said, I think it's so important to do your homework in that area, to price yourself appropriately, to understand the value of your skill in the market, your experience in the market, so that you're already priced like on target, so that when consumers come to you, you don't need to negotiate, because you're already confident in what you offer, and you're confident in the way that you've priced yourself, so that you don't need to apologize for the cost of the value that you offer.
I agree. We always, and I see it a lot among women. Men never doubt their price tag. They always know that they're worth every penny and even more than that. With women, it's always like, I feel so uncomfortable asking people more. I feel so uncomfortable making them pay for my time. While they do it for everyone else, why shouldn't they do it for you? So once you created this journey and connection and made them appreciate your message and your voice, they are going to be willing to buy from you. So there is no awkwardness in that. You're not just asking them something up front. And I agree with that.
Sorry, you have a really good point. As women, even when you try to price yourself right, we see this a lot in our female clients. They've already underpriced themselves even before they told people what their price is. And so when you negotiate from that further, you've discounted yourself even further than you think you've discounted yourself. And so just keep in mind, like, men probably overprice themselves. We naturally, whatever price you set is probably still too cheap. And so it's really important to just stick to your guns. Like, you'll get the audience that appreciates your work. And 1000% of the times I've negotiated my price, I've regretted it because it's been a client who didn't value my work at the end of the day. So it's not going to pay off in the way that you think it's going to pay off.
Well, and I think
I completely.
I think how we price ourselves. I mean, there's a psychology to how we price ourselves, right? Like, the way that you price yourself is going to affect the clients that you attract as well. So you kind of have to be aware of who you're trying to bring in. Like Tanny said, or maybe, I think it was Tanny, that we're already negotiating ourselves down with our own toughest sell, which is us. And if your prices are so low that you're attracting clients who, I don't know, are just looking for a screaming deal rather than looking for the value of what you offer, you're not going to love the people that you're working with. So pricing yourself it's important. It's going to affect how much you enjoy your work, I think, ultimately.
Of course, because you don't want to start it with a resentment and with being like, I offered 80% discount on my already discounted rate, and now I'm hating it. Why should I invest effort into this project?
Right.
Someone else wanted to.
I would say also know the value of what you're offering and if you believe in your product and what you're offering, you're going to price it. You're going to price it right. So you have to believe in yourself and the value that you're bringing, and believe in the product that you're selling, and know that the people that want that product are going to find it and they're going to be willing to pay for it.
Yes.
Exactly. Also, people might be suspicious if they see that your prices are lower than the competition. They might think, well, maybe something is wrong. Maybe it's substandard. Maybe it's not as good as that other person. And a lot of times people are trying to intimidate us into lowering our prices. They said, why is it so high? I just talked to the other person. They ask for much less. And you always have to ask the question, well, why didn't you stick with them? Why did you come to me? So there is a reason. And it's another part of branding and selling psychology that's not as fun as making an experience and journey and meaningful connection. You actually have to stand your ground and not be a softie. And does anyone have anything to add on the price tag?
Have you seen that meme that's like, client paying $500? Like, this is going to be a really important journey for us. We're about to change our lives and this needs to be perfect. Client paying $10,000. Okay, just sent it over. Thanks.
I know.
Lower,
Like,
lower ticket investors
you
are
need
like,
to know. You know, to know exactly what your time is worth. And some people make it too high. Some men, especially, they can intimidate someone into buying and saying like, well, how can you respect yourself if you don't buy from me? They're like, are you worse than everyone else? We don't do that. We're friends with our customers. And we already talked for almost 45 minutes. And so it's time to wrap up, but I would like it to end with our final thoughts and tips and life hacks for our listeners. So I'm going to ask you one by one to say your final big advice that you have. Let's start with Liz.
of course. Let's.
Because she seems very ready.
Yes, I've been thinking a lot about this the whole time, and what I want to say, and listen up because it's going to be good. I would say this has been touched on. Like, alignment is very important. If you can align your brand with who you are genuinely, especially if you are a solopreneur, like so many of the people that are probably listening, you're just going to have an easier time. It's just going to flow. It's going to feel more natural, and you're going to be able to connect with your audience in a more authentic way.
Mm-hmm. To be yourself and align yourself. Rosie.
Yes, that everybody has a story, that your story is important, and it's a matter of amplify the voices so it reach the right people. Not everybody is for you, and you're not for everybody. So identify that mutual connection that can benefit each other.
Thank you. Tanny.
The thing I come across over and over and over, so this is where I'll take my advice, is business owners don't realize how important branding is and how much it matters to the consumer. And it's usually the last thing they think of, and they may have the most amazing product that everyone needs, and they can't get traction and they don't understand why. And so my advice is to flip that. That should be your first priority, is to think of your branding and to make sure that is straight, because it is your, Becky loves to call it the secret salesman. It's the one that's working 24 hours for you, that's making sales while you're asleep. Like that, and as the more you can put power and motion behind your brand, the more you'll receive benefit from it. And if you have an amazing product on top of it, then you're gold.
That's so good. That's actually what mine is too. I want to go back and just change it to what she said.
Tanny, you just stole Liz's idea.
And we're done.
Okay, Cassandra.
My number one point is basically be authentic. Be someone that's real. I mean, especially on the internet, there's so many things on there that you don't know what to believe on the internet these days. So people want to connect with you. There's a lot of different people that you could be. People are going to want to connect because you're you, and that's your power. There's nobody else. So be real, and people sense when you're kind of being fake. So be authentic. Just be you, even if you're quirky and there's downfalls. Everybody has downfalls. People are going to relate to that. So be authentic.
Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't sound like the best idea, just be yourself.
somebody's going to resonate with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, more
Mhm.
weirdos out there like us. We're not the only ones.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to be like, "Oh, she's real." Okay, I get that. Yeah, my kid has sticky stuff all over the couch too. So, yeah.
I know. Carla.
I think what Cassandra said, it's being repeated a lot. You have to be authentic. You have to really connect with your client authentically. Offer them a service or product that is just specific to them. Help them feel like they are very important and this is really for them, that you are there for them. And create an experience that never ends because you want them to keep coming back. You want to be recommended. You want to offer that experience to everyone you can.
Thank you. I agree. Demetria?
I would say have a genuine love for your customer and always ask yourself how you can give them more value and how you can over deliver.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's a good one.
That's the point. And Becky.
Mine's going to sound really shallow after Demetria's. That is such a beautiful way to say it. But I feel like I'm going to kind of piggyback on Tanny's a little bit, that your branding is so powerful, and it really has to be deliberate and thoughtful and intentional. And also authentic, like definitely authentic. And that needs to be a part of that intention. Like, yeah, just be careful about it, be thoughtful about it. Make sure that you're hitting the ground running when you're branding yourself, because there's so much to it. Like, it's not just your logo. A lot of people think that a brand is just a logo, but there's so much more to it. So
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our speakers, to all our experts, and to all our listeners and all those who want to succeed in creating a personal brand or a company brand, or just be successful with their audience. If it's one person or millions of people, just be authentic, be cohesive, create a journey and a meaningful and a lasting relationship, and have a website and have logos and make sure you have good stuff, all the good stuff for your brand. Thank you so much and have a
thank you.
beautiful day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.